so much, flower people. We are today actually very happy to have Scott Shepard here with us, all the way from the United States, who is curating the Flower Podcast. And I mean, we have already heard from wonderful floral designers what amazing job you are doing for your industry, actually, in the States. So we are very grateful that you took the time to speak to us today. Maybe for the people who have not really checked in, what is the Flower Podcast, and maybe also how you started, that would be a great introduction to what you do. Can you
Sure.
just tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. Thank you. First, thank you for inviting me. What a treat. You guys have had amazing people from all over the world on your channel here, and well, how fun to join you. I'm here in
Thank
Atlanta,
you.
Georgia. So in Atlanta, I live about an hour outside of Atlanta, and we
Mhm.
have the Flower Podcast. And the Flower Podcast basically uh, is my attempt to reach out to floral designers, flower farmers, people that are involved in the floral industry and tell their
Mhm.
stories. Because number one, I feel like in our age of social media, we rarely get the opportunity to go deep and actually hear these stories
Right.
and to learn from the experiences of other people. And
Mhm.
it's just, there's so much wisdom and the experience and the knowledge, and it's just been a great journey to be able to connect with people all over the world just like this and share their stories and to get to know these people. I mean, the floral community, as you probably know, is already so small. It's like it's a global
Right.
industry, but
Yeah.
yet it's amazing. All it takes is one small trip and everyone knows everybody. So we're connected somehow. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So, but thank you
And
again for
sometimes
having me.
you're, yeah,
You're welcome.
wonderful. Sometimes we are really surprised when we think like there's people so far away, like from here to America, and then like all of a sudden you think like, oh wow, they know about you or they know each other, or like how they can know each other from the other part of the world. And it was quite. We are actually very happy to have today your story, because usually you tell stories, and today we are happy to get your story. And I think I still have to say that I'm very grateful that the first chat we had a couple of days ago, just 2 o'clock at night, right? When I wrote you something, and all of
And
a
here you
sudden
are.
here you are. You just like instantly phoned me, and we had a night chat, and it was so amazing. So yeah, tell us a little bit maybe about like how you started, how that all has started, like how you came to the idea to do that.
And also when,
Sure.
maybe it
Yeah.
would be interesting, like when did you like started to do that?
Sure. Well, it's so interesting that with the whole coronavirus situation, how many people have all of a sudden, like this, like doing lives and doing, getting out there and doing design classes and things. But, a couple of years ago, you didn't see this that much. And
Mhm.
I said that I live about an hour outside of Atlanta. Well, I commuted into the city every day and I would spend roughly 3 hours a day commuting, which is a chunk of time. And I got
Mhm.
tired of radios, I got tired of music, I listened to books online, and finally I got into listening to podcasts. And then it was like, once I got into podcasts, it was like there's this gigantic vault of knowledge, and it didn't matter what you were interested in. If it was a TV show or if it was some kind of crime mystery, if it was flowers, there was a podcast for everybody, it seemed like. And so I
Mhm.
had listened to a lot of the podcasts that were out there, and I enjoyed them all. I mean, they were all great. But sometimes they would interview somebody that I knew personally, and I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this person than they unpacked. And I was just like, at some point I just, I was talking with my family and my wife, and we just toyed with the idea. And and it was just like, why not me? Why not me? Why not start a podcast? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's been a little over 2 years. We started, and it took us probably about 6 months to get all of the pieces in place. And then we launched in July of 2018. And a lot of the very first guests were customers of mine or friends that I had met over the time. And over time, that grew into just people literally all over the world. And I don't know. I feel like because I was in, and I'll share this, I worked in the wholesale end of the
Mm-hmm.
industry for almost 27 years. And so, and
Wow.
it's so funny because with some people, the old timers who have been doing this forever, they're like, that's nothing. I've been doing it for 40 years or whatever, 50 years, and it's kind of like, well, I understand, but I feel like it's a chunk of time. And then there's people that are brand new. And so it's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm at the right time in the right place to
Yeah.
really kind of be able to reach out. But so many of my customers, I helped through making decisions for events or choosing flowers or, kind of planning different things for them. And so I don't know, I just kind of felt like I had something to offer and I wanted to help other designers. And then maybe that's one reason why when I interview guests, I have a different perspective because I've actually grown flowers. And so, because, I didn't have enough to do, so I had to pick something else. And of course, I couldn't have done any of it without the help of my family. And so, we grew hellebore, we grew hydrangeas, we grew zinnias and
Wow.
celosia and cosmos. We grew a lot of annuals. We grew a lot of flowers. And so when I'm talking with a flower farmer, it's always great because I get to kind of, I
Right.
don't
You can
know,
connect.
my word would
We
be
Yeah.
have
like,
the same
yeah,
language.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and I just get passionate about it because I still love that part of it. And then when I'm talking with a wedding and event designer, I've worked with those people, that group of our industry so closely for so long that, I'm like, I'm sensitive to their pain points. I'm sensitive to their challenges because I know, I mean, I freelance and help with weddings sometimes. And it's kind of like, I've been in those trenches and I identify with them. And so, and then, also being a buyer, because I know you guys do a lot of buying too, on top of everything you do. I've been able to make friendships all around the world. And with growers and brokers or shippers and I don't know, I guess I'm just very sensitive to every step in our chain, and I have a unique connection with every one of those links. And it's been an honor. It really has been an honor to just kind of tap into that, share these stories, and impact people's lives, because there's a lot of people out there that struggle, that
Yeah.
they feel very alone, especially now, but
Yes.
even before
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
When you're in business by yourself and you're the boss and you're the person who has to do the hiring and firing and
Decisions.
buying flowers and executing, sometimes you feel very isolated, you feel very alone.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
when you can
Yes.
hear the stories of people that have had the same situations, you don't feel so alone anymore, because you're like, oh wow,
Yes.
they had the same
Exactly.
problems, they have the same
Yeah.
struggles.
Yes.
um
Surprisingly, they have the same problem.
yes, well, I mean, yeah. And so I don't know, it's just been really special, and it's been a joy. So
I can totally understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
because a little bit of our journey is almost similar,
Similar.
because we started as an event company, and then we, like, by accident, honestly saying, we came into the flower wholesale. We started with one rose farm and then it grew from there. So now we import flowers from all over the world. We even export flowers out of South Africa. And we got to know a lot of people, and exactly what you say.
Yeah.
We when we started this idea, piece of a puzzle stories, because Alfie
mhm.
said, don't we are all a piece of the puzzle, and when one actually piece is missing, we are not complete. And so we reached out first to people that we know. I mean, that's the
Natural. Yeah.
natural thing. And then, like, we haven't done this for so long. I mean, like, weeks or something, right?
1.5 weeks.
Yeah, we're still learning, but we have spoken, I think, to, I have no idea, but it feels like 100 people. And one guides us to the other one. You know, there's people, they say, maybe we can go to reach out to those or to those. They have an interesting story. And so we also like the networking culture in America.
Yes.
And I really want that to be transported into our industry, because here in South Africa, or maybe in Africa, is not such a culture yet. Um, and I like to hear these stories where people work together and without fear, without jealousy, just for the good of everyone, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, so just maybe to complete, I think what you wanted to say is that because we have this event background, we also understand our clients much better, because a lot of people are like obviously doing events. And here in South Africa, and that's maybe interesting for you, we have about 80% event florists opposed to 20% like flower shops.
Really?
I believe that in the States, like it's not so drastic, like it's a bit more balanced. There are much more flower shops, corner shops that sell flowers than event florists. But for us, that is like our key to actually also speak the same language. But just in terms of your podcast, so do you have a podcast or a story which like really struck out, where you say like you have now 2 years? I'm sure I've spoken to like a lot of people, but something where you said, wow, like I could really make a difference, because by the end of the day, why we are also doing this now during lockdown is we want to bring inspiring people to like everyone's living room, you know, kitchen table, like wherever they are right now. And we hope that we can inspire someone just by listening to someone's story. So do you have like through the Flower Podcast, like really something where you say, I could really make a difference, or I could really, really help someone to make a change? Or is it more than one? I don't know. But like, just to hear like from your experience would be great.
Sure. Well, I think to answer your question, I feel like there is, first of all, I want to say I love the title of your series involving the pieces of the puzzle, because it paints such a great picture that we are all important, right? That we all have a purpose. And
Yes.
without each of us, if one of us, if we're not doing what we're meant to do, then that puzzle's missing a piece. And so I say that to say that with these episodes, I know I always catch myself, because I always feel so crazy and stupid sometimes when I start every episode about saying how excited I am for the guest we have this week, because I think I say it every single time. And you're kind of like, well, how can you be this excited for, I mean, and it's kind of like, but it goes back to just that puzzle, you know. Every guest we have has some piece that has either spoken to me, or I know will speak to other people because of all the experience that I've had. And so, and sometimes they're not, you know, it's funny. I was speaking with a flower farmer, and I'd been following them, and I was trying to reach out to them to have them, you know, to do something with them. And they said, I said, do you listen to the podcast? Because I don't, you don't know who listens, because that's not public information.
Right.
You just know that somebody listened, right? And so, and they said, yes, we do. Mostly we listen to the episodes where you're interviewing flower farmers. And I thought to myself, well, that's awesome. I understand you connect with that base. And I didn't really say this to the person, but I was thinking at the same time, I'm like, but this is the important thing is, and I even said this in the intro to my last episode with Triple Run Farm, that I may interview a photographer. I may interview a wedding planner. I may interview a flower farmer. I may interview a flower shop. I may interview any of these people. if you've got a creative business, okay, it almost doesn't matter whether it's flowers or not. But of course, we're all
Mm-hmm.
flower lovers, so that's the big
Yes.
thing. But almost anybody can listen to our podcast and glean something, whether it's a leadership style or a personal management style, or how to focus on websites like we did a couple of weeks ago, or how to get a sense of it's okay to be in this season of
Mm-hmm.
that we're all shut down, and how can we make the most of this bad situation. Each episode tends to do this, and it always amazes me, and that's the thing about it is it's like I know because I hear it. I get messages from people, I get emails from people, that say, thank you so much for this episode.
Beautiful.
It's like it's special. It's not this is not it's more than just a job. I mean, now I do it full time, right? It's more than just a job for me. It's a
Mm-hmm.
way of helping people and serving people, and it
Yes.
doesn't matter. I mean, if you're a knitter and you knit sweaters, I mean, you probably can learn some things from our podcast. It doesn't matter. It just really
Mm-hmm.
creatives have a lot of common challenges. Creative people do, and
Right.
I think when I think back and I like, this last few episodes. I mean, every episode means something special to me, but
Sure.
I would say that ever since the COVID situation, um, we did a interview with Steve Moore from Sinclair and Moore,
Mm.
and I mean, what an incredible human being. Okay, what a person who genuinely can empathize with you and genuinely feels because he's done it all. Okay,
Yes.
he's been someone who has worked 24 hours around the clock because he's been the person who made the cake, who did the flowers, who uh, maybe even altered the wedding dress. I mean, he's done it all. Okay, he
Yes.
played music. I mean, it was just like, okay, you're just like a one man, powerhouse. And I'm like, how
Sure.
do you even do that?
Yeah.
And he
Amazing.
said, well, he's like, okay, well, I was a lot younger back then, and I maybe didn't need as much sleep, but I should have. But it's just kind of like you can identify with this is someone who has achieved incredible success and notoriety
Yes.
around the world, but yet
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter where you are. He can relate to you, and
Mm-hmm.
so you have that situation, and then we had Katie Davis, and we've had Gracie Polson from Grace Rose Farm. We've had these people that have built something from literally nothing, okay,
Mm-hmm.
just because of their passion. And
Yes.
you know so how many of us as creatives are challenged because we started our business because we're passionate about something, but then all of a sudden we realize, oh wow, there's a lot of not fun stuff part of this. We have to pay our taxes, or we have to make sure we get our business license, and whatever those requirements are wherever you live. And it's always amazing to me that those are usually things that we kind of struggle with, right? And then like this week, we released our episode with Triple Wren Farms. Okay, so you think a flower farmer, somebody who grows amazing dahlias, somebody who sells, tens of thousands of dahlia tubers, who has workshops on their property and all this stuff. So we're sitting here doing an interview, and then she talks about, that if you're really passionate about growing flowers, go into it slowly. Maybe take the first year and just practice growing while you're learning the business side of it, right? And then as you kind of figure out the business part of it, then you'll be ready to really grow both as a business and flowers. Well, that's something that applies to anybody, right? The wisdom of gaining that insight, and the wisdom of, let's just like us, we took 6 months to put the foundation down for our podcast, because we had so many technical things to figure out, and editing things to figure out, and what's the best way to release it to the world, and all these things to figure out. And sometimes it's good to do that. So that's the point, I guess, is it didn't matter whether you're a flower farmer or not. I mean, incredible experience you can learn from the business side, and I think that's almost the benefit And at first I struggled with the fact that I'm a big flower person. I love flowers. I love the color. I love the flash. I love the design. I love all of that. And I'm on a podcast where there's no visual element. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a handicap. Okay. I'm like, it's really easy to talk about flowers when I'm holding, hey, this is awful, but when I'm holding some flowers here, okay, it's really
Yes.
easy. It's easy to get excited about an incredible
Yes.
cymbidium stem. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But
Yes, yes.
when you're just audio, it's kind of like, well, how do you connect? And what came out of it was so much more. It's like, because we're not distracted by this, we can actually get to know people. We can actually get
It's more
to
pure.
hear.
We can focus more.
I'm
It's more
sorry.
pure. It's more
Yeah.
pure, and you can more
Focus. You
focus.
can really focus like on just the words and the meaning, what people are saying.
And it's very
Absolutely.
important what you said actually about passion. And I think a lot of people, when they start a business, they think about what can I achieve, how much money I can make. And I'm always saying you can achieve everything with one thing, that is actually passion. And we heard once somebody saying, passion is doing what you love and not considered work. And I think, like, one can see if somebody has passion, and we can see this in your eyes, how you are talking about your podcast. This is passion.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And I think, especially this time right now, if you're not passionate about your business,
Yeah.
in a difficult time right now, you have it even more difficult if you're not passionate about what you're doing, because it's such a hard time, and it's going to be still like hard for a few months to come, unfortunately. So you are in a better space, even though maybe mentally a lot of people are not in the right space right now. But if you do something really from the heart, you're gonna survive this. This is really
Yeah.
something that I believe.
I agree. I completely agree.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, we all know that America is hit one of the hardest with COVID, and we all feel very, very, very sorry. I mean, really, we, like, at least we always follow every day, like, what is going on in the world and what is going on in America, in Europe. We as European, obviously, we are also interested what's going on there, what is going on in our own continent. And we sometimes we can't believe really what's going on. But tell us a bit, like, about the flower industry, how the flower industry is actually coping with the situation, or what is, how.
The implications
Yes.
maybe that you predict now, also having spoken to a lot of growers,
Yeah.
and what does it mean for exporting? What is your, like, price wise, maybe just something that you can summarize where you can say, you know what, like, right now, this is really what I can see what is happening in the market.
Sure. Well, it was really scary there at the very beginning, because when everything started canceling, nobody knew, are they gonna are clients gonna actually cancel? I mean, you're in the event industry, are they gonna
Yes.
cancel? Are they gonna postpone? Are they gonna reschedule? Are they gonna downsize? And I know that, of course, where you are, it's going into fall now, right? I mean, you're on the southern hemisphere,
Yes.
so
Yes.
things are
Yes.
starting to
Yes.
get a little bit, well, I don't know, do things get really get cool in South Africa? They do. They get cool in South Africa.
I do. Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, they do. I've actually seen snow, so I mean, I know it happens. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah. So, I feel like, most most of the event industry, which I'll speak to that mostly,
Mm-hmm.
you have a dry spell through the winter holidays, and then start gearing up. And so when this hit, a lot of businesses struggle because they've been shut down. They've not, maybe not
Yeah.
completely shut down, but the main wedding season was just getting ready to get ramped up. And
Yeah.
then before you know it, this hits. And so, you kind of live off your savings, right? For those months where your cash flow is not as great. And then you
Yeah.
gear up, and then that's what carries you through the summer. So,
Right.
that's hard. That's really, really hard because, you know, not all businesses, you know, have the cash flow to kind of sustain them through this. And then
Mhm.
as people reschedule, so I mean, it's just a challenge. It's a huge challenge. And so I was really glad to see some companies pivoting and changing a little bit to try to do some sort of retail. I mean, a lot of event companies actually started as a retail business, some of them. And
Mhm.
so, you know, some of them going back to their roots of trying to offer
That's
that
nice.
or find
Mm.
ways to sell flowers for Mother's Day, for example, whether it's, you know, a no contact delivery or pickup or some
Mhm.
situation like that. And so, you know, a couple of months ago when things were so clamped down and it was like the stranglehold and you had all these amazing flowers being produced and not being able to either come into the country or move through the country because the trucking companies were closed and people were trying to, you know, fly flowers to people who wanted them, but hardly anybody wanted them. You know, there was a handful, actually there's more than, there was many companies that tried to find some way to at least trickle flowers to
Mhm.
customers, and then those customers are finding ways to trickle flowers back out to their customers. And it I think that helped. I think by keeping some of these chains moving, it allowed for a gradual progression of a lot of these companies to kind of ramp up in
Mhm.
a efficient but yet safe way. And so now most wholesalers that I've spoken to are open. Most
Okay.
wholesalers, you may have to make an appointment. You may only be able to
Mhm.
pick up on the curbside, like in the
Mhm.
parking
Mhm.
lot. You
Mhm.
may be able to have something shipped to you if you're not, located near one via, FedEx or Delta or some airplane or something. There's there are flowers flowing. Are they where they were? No, by no means. But there are flowers flowing, and I think this Mother's Day week, I know I'm so appreciative that the people I follow, the people I talk to, they're all really trying to sell flowers. They're trying to market the product, and they're shifting some of what they do. I am seeing a trend towards people wanting to have a small, intimate wedding now. I know I
Mhm.
was on the phone with someone last night that they had a big wedding planned, and now it's going to be, like a 20-person wedding. And then they're going to go ahead and do it, and they're just going to be very careful about it and follow all the rules and
Mhm.
with distancing and things. And then maybe in the fall they'll schedule a big event, a party, a reception,
Nice.
something, to celebrate. But yeah, I mean it's been a challenge, but I'm so excited to see flowers flowing again. A lot of the people I follow, a lot of the people I talk to, you can see that they're getting peonies or they're getting lilies or they're getting tulips. They're starting to see for us California products starting to show up and feeds all across the country. And so, I feel encouraged by it. I mean, it's still a challenge, obviously. And I think in a lot of ways, we've been very fortunate that the local flower movement that's been growing in momentum over the past handful of years, I mean, longer than that, really, but we've really seen it the last maybe 6, 7 years. Um, that has really been a godsend. We've had people, where you can't get the flowers one way or the other. Your local person may have something, and it's funny. I was talking to a florist, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and they're still getting phone calls at people who want, oh, I have to have this, 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 and this, and it's kind of like, I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way now. It used to work that way, but it doesn't work that way now. And so what do you do?
Exactly.
It's like, well, this is,
Yeah.
you give us a color palette and we'll do our best, but we
Yes.
guarantee you it'll be something beautiful, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
in a way, I think a lot of businesses, floral businesses, that we're having to actually creatively learn a new language almost because we're trying to sell something and from a beautifully creative design as opposed to relying on these specific flowers that we have to use. And so I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but
Yeah,
it's been an
it does.
adventure.
It does. And we just like very, very unexpected, actually. We had like 2 hours ago, we had a chat with Italian flower shop, one of the most beautiful flower shops in Milan. And she just like yesterday, she reopened after 2 months because also Milan was very hardly hit by the COVID.
Sure.
And she said she opened and she just bought flowers. She doesn't know how many, but she just wanted to have the shop full because just for her own pleasure, that she has actually the pleasure of having flowers again. And I mean, for us particularly, that was amazing because also since lockdown until today, even Mother's Day ahead, there is no legal point of actually selling flowers right now. Although there is a lot of confusion in our market at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people need flowers. Flower, we have this very like uh, the situation that in the government gazettes it says all the essential goods are like permitted to sell, and we say flowers are an essential good.
We
That's
strongly
why.
feel, I mean, everyone in the flower industry feels that it's essential. And actually, when we have now more than 7 weeks, no like flowers that were circulating, everyone could feel that they really missed to work with flowers, and the joy that gives back to people when they look at flowers, the way how they smile, a house or a kitchen table just look completely different. I think we all also appreciate flowers much more, whereas maybe before, yes, it was a passion, but it was also a job, you know. But now it's really also something that a lot of people are dying to get their hands on flowers again, just to be creative. And I think also what you said, this time for creatives themselves, I think it's a great time to actually be creative, because you have to deal with what is available locally.
Right.
I mean, you know, so whatever you can get your hands on, you just have to create. And this also, I think, will set you apart in your industry from others. The way how you can deal with what is available right now, and not maybe go by certain recipes. I mean, it would be lovely also for us to have like peonies now, or like, you know, things that we usually import and which are not currently available in the season. But it's just amazing. Like, I think when creatives can get their hands on it, it will definitely show their creative side.
Or it will define a totally new style for some people.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know on one of my interviews, I want to say maybe it was Steve Moore's. Yeah, we were talking about that because, you know, a lot of times uh, necessity or scarcity, you know, is the mother of invention, right? And
Yeah.
so who who knows? Who knows what exciting styles might come out of this?
Yeah.
Or the thing that really excites me is what flowers have we walked by for years that make great cut flowers, and just because we've never tried them, we didn't know. And that's a whole nother thing, you know, for me. And so yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a crazy time. I know that for you guys, I can't even imagine to not be able to do anything for 7 weeks. And that just makes my heart break. But I feel too that, just like you said, Elfie, that you know, people are going to appreciate it so much more. I know I'm always great. I mean, obviously we're shelter in place here. Uh, we go to the grocery store because we have to, like once maybe every 10 days. And I'm glad to see people walking out with flowers. I'm glad to see the grocery store has the flowers, and I'm glad to see them walking out with flowers. And you know, it does warm my heart, because I feel like that's people trying to connect to nature. That's people trying to you know, add some normalcy to their life, even if they never buy flowers regularly. You know, it's still people trying to do that.
It became somehow something like a pet. You know, you can even talk to them.
Yeah, you see something grow. I think it does something to your well-being when you look at flowers, you just in a completely different space. You have something that is alive, that is growing, that is
Yeah.
something beautiful to look at. And I think people will actually like my perception is the longer lockdown will take, the more actually when it's allowed, people will buy flowers because they are in their homes much more than ever before. And they want to make their homes pretty. They want to look at beautiful things. So I believe that for florists actually, or for corner shops or supermarket business, flower bunches are actually going to be a thing. Well, I really hope that the lockdown is not going to extend too much longer. But I think once this is open, it is actually really good business for people.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I
Tell
completely
me,
agree.
yeah. Tell me, what, like a lot of people say, like with COVID, they had or they have changed their business. Was it also impacting your business, like the podcast directly, that you say, okay, I had to do something different, or I wanted to do something different?
Well, that's a great question, and I don't know that anyone's ever asked me that question, but the answer is that it has impacted the podcast industry. We've been very fortunate, but overall, people engaging with podcasts, you would think it would be up, right? Because people have more time on their hands, but I think it's
Mhm.
actually gone down. Now,
Mm.
I will say that we have, I mean, I would say we had about 2 to 3 weeks that things were, you could tell a difference. And I think it's because people's
Mhm.
habits have changed, right? I mean, like I
Yeah.
listen to them, like I said at the beginning, in my car, driving back and forth to work. Or if I was working on something, I might do it. Well, if I'm not doing that commute, then maybe, because I need to stay at home, maybe I'm not doing that. And so one of the things that we did to change a little bit is, of course, we've been doing lives kind of like this, which has been fun. And we've been trying to do different things, not just interviews with people, but farm tours or garden tours and different elements like that, so to speak. But then we also, through Zoom, we're doing some of our interviews we started doing through Zoom. So if you wanted to watch my interview with Steve Moore, you can go to YouTube like we are now, and you can go to the Flower Podcast. We have a channel, and there's the video that we had with Steve. And so you can watch our conversation, which has been really great. And so it's given us the ability to do some different kinds of connecting with our listening audience. But I
Yeah.
will say that we can tell that people are now catching up on episodes. And so,
Mhm.
we're definitely seeing downloads, go up. Um, it's pretty exciting. I mean, it's not something I typically go around sharing, but we for a new podcast, it is challenging to sometimes grow and to get the word out. And I feel like
Mhm.
because of our audience and because of our guests, it's been pretty great. It's hard to imagine. We've done almost every season we've done, our audience has doubled. And
Wow.
I thought when we finished season 3, I thought there's no way we're going to double season 3, right? Well, in season 4, even though we had a dip, all right, we are completely on track to doubling again. And so,
Congratulations. That's
thank
amazing.
Congratulations.
you.
Yeah.
Well, it's really a testimony to the guests, and I think
Hmm.
it's um you know I don't know. I care about people. I want to serve people, and I feel like that comes through. And I also think the different ways, these new ways of connecting, is also powerful. Whether it's like this, doing. I
Yeah.
mean, it was so crazy because uh, when Sylvia, when you messaged me, I was in the middle of a live Instagram live, and I was just being spontaneous. And it was like, I even said, I mean, I've never done this before. I said, if you're out there and you want to join me, go ahead and hit join. And so, a nice lady from Arizona popped on, and we chatted for 5 or 10 minutes. I didn't know her before, but it's a cool way to connect with people. And she does flowers from her house, and she does wedding bouquets and things like that. Well, then my dear friend from Australia, Debbie, who has Dragonfly
I
Floral.
saw that.
She,
I saw
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's where
Yeah,
I saw
I saw
you come
that.
on. And so, she and I have talked several times, and it was just fun to see. And I know if she's no shy person, so she'll just jump on. And so she did. And so we were talking, and that was great. And then I saw you pop up while I was doing that, and I'm like, I know it's like 2 o'clock in the morning there. What is she doing on Instagram? And that's when I messaged you back right away, and I was just like, well, I know she's up. If she wants to answer the phone, she'll answer it, I guess. And so
Yes.
that's that's why I called, because I know we had been kind of like playing tag there and connecting
Yeah.
for this. But
You have to be a bit crazy in this industry, I think.
and if you're not when you come in, you are when you leave. So it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
And
So,
I saw, that's interesting that you mentioned this, because when I saw her and I thought myself, okay, when he has somebody from Australia, I have to compete this, So there must be someone from Africa as
well, I guess I'd have to do that earlier in the day for you, because you should be sleeping. So,
well. Yeah, please.
I mean, this is also, I mean, we don't personally usually also talk a lot about like our situation, like as such, but we are very stressed as well. I mean, in the situation that we are in, we have sleepless nights, we have staff that need our support. We have, I mean, for the last 7 weeks, not sold a single stem. So it is quite a challenge also for us. I mean, we do this because we also are usually like very positive people at heart, and we love to inspire others by just hearing their stories. It's not so much about us. We want to actually really hear from others, learn from others, hear their stories, get the word out. Maybe even if we can support, like you said, also if we can bring someone on and we can connect to people, maybe someone who hears this, someone who is speaking, then we have done much more than we can do right now, because we cannot support ourselves right now in the way that we actually want to.
right.
Nonetheless, I think every entrepreneur is really, I mean, hard struck, and we had that before, the conversation that there is a certain curve that everyone goes through. I mean, I think in the beginning, everyone was just in disbelief. Like this is not happening. Like cannot be. Like this cannot. Not the whole world cannot shut down. And then there's
Yeah.
like slowly like a mourning like phase where you're like, my goodness, what am I going to do? How am I going to overcome this? And then slowly you pick up your pieces, and you try to rearrange, and you see how you can actually, like, even in this moment of time, make a difference. And I think for us, the only way how we can make a difference right now is to reach out to the world and to bring also the world to South Africa and to Africa. We do not have only people from South Africa to listen, but a lot of neighboring countries, a lot of other African like florists and wholesalers and growers are listening in. And I think they just also need to hear stories that not necessarily are always about COVID, or about death rates or about like negative things. But to see a face like yours, to hear a voice, because also many of us are confined in their homes. They go shopping, they go maybe maximum to the doctor, and that's it.
Right.
So I think the whole social interaction game has also changed. So it's nice to actually see, like you. I mean, we asked you to go into the garden, but like to see like how are other people living? What is the weather out there? Just really basic stuff right now has become so important.
Yeah, to see also faces behind brands. I think like that is what we said also before. Business is done by people, and we want to speak to people and want to show your face. And this is the Flower Podcast. This is
We know this is
Scott.
now maybe a little bit against the podcast, like what we say, but we just like believe that we want to see like you. I mean, you are a success story on your own. We want to like show the people, hey, this is Scott Shepard, and he like initiated the Flower Podcast, and it's just beautiful to see a face to a brand.
here somewhere in Africa, there is somebody that picks up this idea and it is initiating something similar, or for another industry, maybe a podcast for, I don't know, for the leather industry or for whatever, you know. I
Yeah.
think this is what we hope will be the outcome, and we want to entertain a little bit our own industry. We want to show also the world that in Africa there's much more than just animals and maybe crime and maybe I don't know what people know about Africa, but there's business, there's amazing creative people, and we want to also bring them out to the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. I know I shared with you the other night. I've actually been to Africa twice, and once was to Kenya, and I visited the rose growers there and many
Mhm.
farms there. That was an amazing experience. And then I went through South Africa to Swaziland, and I mean, it's a beautiful country, and
Right.
it's amazing. Um, the people, just what I'm excited for what you're doing, because I feel like this library of videos you've created is something that isn't just like for your neck of the woods. It's also, your corner of the world. It's also for people around the world. And it doesn't, and that's the beauty of technology and the beauty of the day and age we live in. It doesn't really matter where you live, you can still impact people around the globe. And
Mhm.
I'm excited for you guys doing this, and I'm excited for just everything you're doing. It's really great. And we're gonna have to, maybe next season we can get you on our podcast, because it would be fun to to hear your stories and everything. Once
Thank
once we're once we're all doing flower stuff again, right? So um, that would be great
you.
fun. So yeah.
No, and for us, it's an honor really also to have you like with us. And I have to be like quite honest. I always heard you, but I never even thought that like you could be like we could speak and you could take the time to speak to people from the other side of the world. So thank you so much for sharing also your time. Can you just also let people know maybe ones who have like still like flower podcast, like what is this? How can people access the flower podcast?
Sure. Thank you for that question, because sometimes I forget to talk about that. And that's the important thing for us, isn't it? I get excited talking about flowers and I forget these things. And so most people, listen to a podcast on their phone, on their cell phones. But we do on our website, theflowerpodcast.com. You have to type in theflowerpodcast.com. You can listen right from our website. So if you don't have access through an app or something, that's an easy way to be able to listen. And you can see everyone's faces and the photographs they show us. We have blog content, which is really great, where we have just different things on that. We've just started putting, whoops, I just lost my earbud. We have different videos on there now because of things we've been doing through all of this. But most
Mhm.
people listen through their phone. And so if you haven't, like, if you listen to Spotify, we're on Spotify. If you go and you hit Spotify and you type in
Mhm.
the Flower Podcast, we come up. It's
Mhm.
free. It's a great way to get this content. If you have an iPhone, there's an Apple Podcast app you can use. If you have Alexa, in the States, Alexa is a big thing. We're
Mhm.
on that. You just have to ask her to play the Flower Podcast. And so I lost count how many apps we're on. It's like just about every app, just about every podcast listening app that's out there, you can find us. And
Mhm.
and I always tell people, I love to hear from you. If you've got a question, if you're having a hard time finding us, Instagram is a great way you can message me. We have Facebook, which is great too, and we're at the Flower Podcast. So, it's both on Instagram and Facebook there. We'd love to have you follow us. We have great content. We do lives. And yeah, I mean, we're just, it's like we feel like we're busier now than ever with all of this. And it's exciting. And we've got some big things that we're working on coming down the pipeline here in a couple months. And yeah, so
Tell us a bit.
Can
what?
you maybe say I don't know how like if you release it something like who will be one of your next maybe guests that you are interviewing? Is that something you can tell us?
Well, I'm not sure exactly the order these are going to come out in, but we have an amazing interview. I know because of the holiday this week. Sometimes on holidays, we replay a past episode, so we're doing that this week. That also allows people time to catch up if they're behind listening. And we've seen that a lot. We've seen a lot of that lately, so that's great. I know that we have Mindy Rice, which is an amazing designer here in the States. We have Ariella Shazar, which is, if you know Ariella, she's incredible. Just an incredible human being. Now you put me on. Oh, we're doing we had a great interview, and this probably doesn't really impact you guys, but with the Alaska Peony Cooperative, we're going to be releasing later, closer to the Alaskan peony crop coming through. And
wow, that's interesting. I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
I have not to miss this.
You have what?
I shouldn't miss this.
Yeah, no, that's going to be interesting also for a lot of people, most definitely. Great.
I finally want to say, like, because you mentioned Kenya, like maybe this is an opportunity when everybody can travel again, because we last year have initiated travel to farms in Kenya, and we call this Rose Safari. We go with one floral designer to one rose farm, and we can visit like a garden rose farm in Kenya, and we do dinner in the rose field. If somebody wants to see like how this look like on our Instagram, there's a couple of pictures, and I think tomorrow we will have this farm on Cape tomorrow, I think, right? I'm not sure. And maybe if you like, we would invite you to join us and have be talking from Kenya from the Rose Safari.
Oh wow, that would be incredible. It's such an amazing place. What an incredible experience to invite people there to do that. I mean, and the people of Kenya are just so sweet.
The love for Africa, you know, I think for Africa and obviously for flowers, because I mean, this is what we do. And we have like 2 bonus points usually, and we just hope traveling will be allowed soon. I mean, for lots of people, this is not only in the like event and flower industry, but this is one of the most essential things these days. But if that's gonna be lifted, then we want to
scheduled for October, the first week of October, but everything is actually at the moment on hold as long as we know what travel like can be, or how travel can be.
Yes. So we just want to be also ambassadors for Africa, and I know that there are a lot of interested minds out, specifically also in the States, who always like ask, what is Africa like? How does Africa look like? What does Africa taste like? How does Africa smell like? And we have amazing garden rose farm, so you can come, stop, and smell the roses in Africa.
And we go on safari, one of the most beautiful parts of Kenya in the Masai Mara.
Right.
Wow.
So
amazing.
We are excited actually what the future will hold for us. Yeah.
Well, you guys are doing so much good stuff. I can't get over everything you guys are doing, and from importing to weddings to live YouTube videos, safaris with roses. I mean, I feel like
that's the reason why we are up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, that's how it is.
I love it. That's great.
Scott, thank you so much. Actually, I can't believe we're already talking for an hour. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like for 15 minutes. Thank you very much for the time.
Yes, and we said we were excited to talk to you, and we really meant it. We were really excited to talk to you. So thank you so much for your time, and keep well, keep safe, and I hope also in the States everything slowly will get back to a certain normal, and we would really love to welcome you in Africa.
Yeah.
I would love that. That would make me happy. And thank you so much. And God bless. Take care.
Thank you. Whenever you call me at 2 o'clock, I've answered the phone. No problem.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.